Greetings, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening.
Good evening.
Yes. Welcome to today's MAI webinar, Editorial Planning with Miss Mei Wong of Singapore. This is Ramon Rocha of MAI. Special welcome to those of you who have joined an MAI webinar for the first time. Welcome. And we are glad to see 54 registrants from all over the world. Thank you for being here. Just a reminder on our house rule, use the chat for your comments and the Q&A for your questions. This is going to be an interesting discussion and I'm looking forward to May's presentation. I'd like to introduce our speaker, Ms. Mei Wong. Mei is the Managing Director of Armour Publishing in Singapore. She started off as a writer and editor at Longman and then worked at Pearson Education for 25 years. Mei had risen from the ranks, was blessed to hold key top positions in major educational publishing companies in Southeast Asia, and she had completed her MBA in the US. Mei, we are so honored to have you here as our resource speaker. Please greet our audience briefly. Say hello to them.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Yes, so
Thanks, Ramon. Thanks, Ramon.
I will just give a few words about
Okay.
the topic, and then I'll let
Okay.
you
Yeah.
start. Planning new titles, what to publish, is such a major challenge for publishers. Every book is an investment of time, effort, and money. Certainly, you have to take risks. Hopefully, most titles will be successful, but some may not be, and they could become disappointments. I'm sure you've heard of the expression, publishing is one of the highest forms of legalized gambling. You try to minimize the risks as much as possible, and the risks are not limited to the new titles. Even your backlist, you have to plan for them as well. So thank you, Mei, for helping us address this major publishing issue in today's webinar. Please take it away.
Okay. Thank you, Ramon. Hello, everyone from different time zones. Yeah, and you all made it here. Much appreciated. No, I would like to give a shout out to Bernice Lee, who linked me up. Thanks, Bernice. And my thanks to go to Ramon for guiding me along. So let us start on today's topic, which is editorial planning. That I will consider editorial planning actually like a roadmap or a calendar of activities and tasks for content and for us to achieve our deadlines. So it is supposed to be like a tactical approach. But uh, in today's webinar, we are talking and discussing more than tactics, and it covers a wider approach. If we were to look at the 5 questions that we are going to explore in this webinar. So overall, we are going to go through these 5 questions. And I'm sure many of you would have been well versed or trained and already using some of the methods that I'll be discussing as we go along. So the 5 questions that we are going to cover today that I will share my perspective, and the first one is we'll be looking at what is in a publishing plan. I'm sure all of you would know what that is, but I would like to share it from Alma's point of view And very quickly after that, we will look at question 2, question 3, and question 4, which is until question 5. That will give us more ideas or more broader strategic implications in our quest to look for the answers to these questions. So in question 1, on about what is in a publishing plan, I'd like to share with you a little bit on Armour. Yep. So Armour has been in the publishing world, publishing Christian titles for Singapore by Singapore authors for 30 years. And now, after the arrival of COVID, our business were being thrown into a very challenging situation. And right now, we are looking into our second season, right? But Armour's calling has always been based on Matthew 6:10. And we use our publishing competency and experience for kingdom purposes. And our ministry is in educating the next generation to know God's word. So in this process, we are working inside an ecosystem with collaborations rather than head-to-head competition. So many of you, or we may come across whereby many people will say that publishing is a sunset industry, but for us, for every sunset, there is a beautiful sunrise also. So now we have a chance to look at our books or ideas and knowledge from the point of view of content. So with content creation and more channels to develop, so we are creating ourselves another season to share our knowledge, information, and ideas, whether through text or illustration. So for Armour, that will be the driving forces behind our publishing program. So in our publishing program, you will see we do a 3-year rolling plan. We cannot expect all the titles to hit press in 1 year. So a 3-year rolling plan means at any one financial year, we have some projects from previous years that roll into this year and some current year projects, as well as some projects that will be published next year. So we have some previous year with current year and future next year's titles, because every project have their different developmental stage, whether it is the commissioning, the writing, the editing, the production, and the marketing process. So we consider it like a rolling plan, though it's for the financial year of 2022, but we do have, let's say, 2021 projects, and we do have some projects now that we know the production date or the marketing date will be in 2023. So in our plan, we have imprints, new titles, we have reprints, which are backlist, and we have custom publishing. So the imprint new titles will constitute about 20 to 30% of our publishing plan. And our reprints are titles that later I will share that are popular or out of stock, So we'll be looking more into it further down. In custom publishing, that means we have a department whereby we will gather the information from churches, pastors, organizations, whereby they may be keen to have their own book for their own congregation, or specific group of audiences. So they will get Armour to publish for them, as they will buy up the whole print run, So that is what we call custom publishing, right? So the main Christian categories and subcategories that we are working on and developing missions and missional publishing, which is our focus for the next few years. Then, of course, we have evangelism, we have discipleship, and also because of COVID, we have developed wellness and counseling, which we feel that there are a lot of needs, whereby many believers are going through very, very difficult times. Besides that, we also have collaborations with seminaries, churches, technological centers, and others, collaborations, even with schools or preschools. So, and then we have another broad category called Christian living, whereby we have books on parenting, relationships, leaderships, and general Christian living. So these are our subcategories. And later you will discover that having categories actually help us to manage our titles and manage our direction for commissioning and how we go about developing the business on the whole. So this is a very quick example of our titles, our new titles, this year, and then our reprints for this year and custom publishing titles. So if you were to see the imprints, are titles that we feel there is actually a need among our target audience, on developing the spiritual aspect, and then also the aspect on how we use the Bible to help us to tackle depression and many mental problems that we are facing in our community here. So mostly these titles are quite related to our community's needs, at the moment. So this is Armour's current publishing plan. That's how we formulate it. So now I'm going into question 2, which was on ways, what are the critical factors to consider when we want to build our list, when we want to decide on what type of books that we want to publish. So I have clustered them under 2 categories. First is the macro considerations. That means before we actually dive into the specific title, we may want to consider and take a look at which age group or the demographics in your particular country. Are we going to publish books for the teenagers, for the young adult, or the baby boomers, for the more senior adults, and that's where we have to take a look at the demographics, at the market segments, and most important is for us to perceive in our community, in our nation, our target audience, what are their needs, to know and understand that. And having said that, we must not forget about the purpose of our organization. What's the vision? What's our mission? So the book that we're going to publish should meet the needs of our target audience, but also should be in line with the vision and mission of our organization, so that we know whatever that we are doing will be meeting both the community needs and our business needs, our missions, And today, even when we think of the title that or the book that we wanted to publish, we must already think about the marketing channels, where are we going to place our book so that it's accessible to our target audience. So now with the COVID-19 situation, we must consider both online and offline channels. So even though many of our physical retail channels are closing, or being managed on a more structured visits, in malls. So we must be aware that we must move some of our books onto the online space, whether it's e-commerce, or we can concurrently put our books on the physical stores, if physical stores are still allowed to open, and e-commerce. Then that way, when we finally publish the book out, we already line up the channels where we want to put our books, right? So these are the macro situations that you may want to look at it like a bird's eye view, a drone's overview to scout and to link them all up before even we edit or commission the book. So the next cluster of factors, I will say more micro and internal considerations. Whichever book that we wanted to work on, we should also internally look at our own publishing plans development. We look at the gap analysis, like for example, just now, our subcategory, we have missional publishing, we have evangelism, we have discipleship. But if I have sufficient titles under other categories, but under my missional publishing, I do not have sufficient titles. So that could be an indication that, that is one area that I can look in, and I can look for the author or the commission the right people to create the content that we want. Because now, as we are in the period whereby we have more choices to present our ideas, our knowledge, our insights. It's not only physical book, but other formats. So at times I may use the word content because we can publish it in other formats. The other consideration in the internal considerations is the authors that we are commissioning. So the authors that have good credentials will help us to market the books much more effectively. Or if authors that are willing to go beyond writing the book, these days they are able to join our YouTube and our social media, it will definitely help us to engage with our target audience more actively. Yeah, and our target audience will be have more chances to interact with our content, or the topic, or the concern, or the needs. So authors' credentials do play an important role in our consideration to choose what type of uh, of book, or what types of titles, or what themes. So for example, if we get an author that is very good in treating depression, and he is very good at sharing, and very eager to engage and talk with our target audience, it will definitely make our product more accessible and more visible. But having said all the macro and micro considerations, well, one very important factor is the costing test. So if we find that a book is very suitable, but we have to make sure that it's commercially viable too. So we have to work through the costing test, and it involves the fixed cost and variable cost, the volume, the pricing. So all these must also go through this filter for our consideration for that particular book to go ahead. So if that book is really some material or resource that people need, but if our costing is not done carefully, we may not be able to sustain our business or sustain that particular title. So besides commercially viable, we have to go through the costing exercise. We will have to look at delivery formats. So when we think of the title or the theme or even the book, we should start also thinking whether we want to have a parallel ebook, especially if we are targeting on busy millennials, like in Singapore, they would have preferred uh, reading an ebook rather than a physical book. So at the end, whether whichever format or author with our best plans, at the end of the day, if our content or the book is not meaningful and not relevant to our target audience, that is different from nation to nation, from area to area. So we must know what is your uh, community or your nation or your target audience needs. So if we know that, it will be very helpful for us to develop the product that they will be very uh, helpful for them. So if we now go into the question 3, which titles, topics, or categories to invest in? So this is a bit related to our previous question too. When we look at all the macro factors and the micro factors, and how we have to push it through the costing test to make it viable. But having said that, we know at the end of the day, to answer this question, we must take a multidisciplinary approach. That means we just cannot work among editors alone or publishers alone. Publishers and editors have to work with the rest of the team to ensure the product development is linked to the market development. And because your product will eventually be used by your target audience in your market, right? But how to reach the market, that's where you will have to work on your channels development. So it is a multidisciplinary connection. So it's not just a book stand alone. It is not just content that stand alone. So your book or your content must relate to your market, and how we reach your market. That's where today we have to look at the different digital platform, your e-commerce, your retailing, and your online and offline uh, space, that we will have to look at. So when we want to choose the titles or topics and categories, you will have to look at a holistic view, rather than just from the editorial point of view. Of course, there are also the design and production, aspect. So this is how I would say that we may have a more effective product at the end of the day if we consider all this, even at the early stage of planning, right? Now, this other question is about what is the decision-making process then? After we look at the macro, we look at the micro, we look at the product development, the market development, and the channels development. How do we make a decision? So normally this decision, we will have to work together as a team. We get feedbacks externally. Then with these feedbacks, it will help you in your production, in your design, in your publishing, plan. When you go to say which is the best time to bring out this book, and when is the best time to to reprint. But sometimes the feedback can also help you to develop your product. For example, when we have feedback from our customers that wanted our book to have the senior customers that enjoy journaling. So when we publish the book, we also develop e-journals for our more senior target audience. So we have to get the feedback. The other thing about decision-making process is we should also look at internal data that we can use or we can get from our accounting system, our sales data, to allow us or guide us in the decisions. For example, how many copies of this book should I print, and with the data that you have, even simple data, actual data you can get from your system in-house, it will help you to make better decisions, that is data driven, or sometimes you can even use your website data, your Google Analytics to look at it, so that you will know how and why and when people purchase your product. So the other thing I'd like to share here is about fresh winds and fresh fire, because as a team, sometimes we are so focused on our job, we seldom lift our head up, and sometimes we do need encouragement, we do need inspiration from each other for us to go forward and also face challenges. So in the decision-making process, it is cross-functional. We should use data and we should use external feedback to give us a more uh, interesting and multi-dimensional aspect to your decision making, a final decision making process. No? So that will help us to develop a better publishing plan. So these questions that I'm going to go through is the last one on backlist. Should backlist be given attention? Definitely, backlist should be given attention because backlist number one, their fixed costs are all captured. So if we were to print backlist, we only will incur the variable cost, which is the print and buying cost. And if we don't print and buy, you will save on the print and buying cost, and your project profitability will be enhanced. For example, the e-books or audio books or podcasts. Like for example, we wanted to keep our classic book on John Song, but this book, the sell-through is rather slow, and the book is very thick, is 400 over pages. So if we were to give this title a physical reprint, it will be not viable commercially. So, but if we were to convert it into an ebook, so it's a backlist, but we convert these commercially non-viable titles to ebooks, there you are, we have these very classic good titles that people may want to read or do research, and we don't have to incur huge inventory holding costs. So backlist is a pool of treasure, whereby we can see using our data to see whether the title saleable or not, and how long it takes to deplete. Then if the title cannot be reprinted into a physical format, if it's viable, we reprint it. If it's not viable, we can convert to ebook, and we can even repurpose. Repurpose here means, for example, we are now trying out for titles that are in the normal format, and we are going to do more missional publishing, let's say. So we want to do small format books. This is like pocket-sized books, so that people go on missions, they can just put it in their backpacks, and it's very convenient for them to put these books in their backpacks, because not every mission location they have Wi-Fi. So if imagine they can put two of these backpacks, two of these backpack editions of our standard size books, so that will give our titles a new lease of life. That means we can reformat it, repurpose it, so that we have a lot of new ideas if the team were to get together. So backlist is a pool of titles that you can check out their salability, and you can then look at it whether you want to reprint it. And if you reprint it, your profit line will be better, because right now you don't have to absorb the fixed cost. you only look at your variable costs. Then because of that, the reprints also, the backlist also will be able to tell you which book is sellable. They have a history. Whereas if a new imprint, you do not have a history to fall back on. So you have to take more risk, you know, you have to take more risk to say, I think after I consider the macro and micro and vision and mission, I think this book can sell. This is what we hope for, no? But for backlist, we can see from the record that okay, this book actually can sell and how long it takes to sell. So we can look at the velocity, how fast it sells. We can look at its volume, how much it sell, and we can even see who buy from these books. So we have a lot of data that we can fall back on, so that when we do our reprint, we have a much better chance of achieving higher sales, right? So that's why backlist should be given, I think, a lot more attention, you know, so that this is like the low hanging fruits that you can fall back on, and you have a history, you have database, you have the record to look at it. And also because of time difference, it may be 2 years since the book was published. So, but you can also look at the repurpose angle, whether you may not want to publish it exactly the same as the previous edition. So you may want to do a different edition, a big font edition, pocket size edition, or you can even look at Lonely Planet, you know, the more longish edition that is backpack friendly, you know. So these are some of the things that we can consider as far as backlists are concerned. So overall, in today's webinar, you know, I hope you all find it useful, you know, and can I can summarize into 3 key takeaways, you know. First, when we do our publishing plan, we have to look from a cross-functional approach, you know. And number 2 is to use simple data analysis to help you to sharpen your decision making, you know. Though we use a lot of feedbacks, we use a lot of brainstorming sessions, you know, and discussions, but data will help in the final decision making. Yeah. And the third takeaway, I would say that editorial planning is not a destination that we just plan to reach somewhere, you know. It should be a continuous improvement, you know. We may be doing this year, but as we plan for our next year, we may look at other ways, you know, whether it's product development. We may look at the product life cycle model, or some other product development models, like even the Boston product matrix or portfolio matrix, so that we can see, okay, our product, how are they performing, you know, and how many product that we are comfortable with, you know, and we are so comfortable we don't develop, let's say, new products, you know. So that's why when you have your continuous improvement mindset, you may want to say, how do I improve my products, even though I have a very good series or very good product. So these three takeaway, I hope, will help you all to look at our editorial planning or publishing planning in the context of business growth and business development, taking into consideration that this is a multidisciplinary effort. So, some concluding thoughts. Editorial planning is an ongoing process, and yet we have to calendarize it because most of our editorial planning also goes into the financial year. For us to get the allocation, the funds, and the resources, and the manpower to get it organized and to ensure its commercial sustainability, but of course, always with God's grace and mercy. So publishers will have to use both right brain and left brain in order to list build. So it is not only having the creative side, but you must balance off the creative and the practical side as well. So finally, I would like to share that through good times or bad times, publishing is still a very important way for us to communicate, to encourage, to inspire, to provide insights and share, with believers, especially. So to be strong and stand in the Lord. And I would like to share my final point here is in this song, Waymaker. So I hope you all will be able to get something from today's webinar. And I will definitely welcome questions and I will try to answer them. Okay, Raymond?
Yes. Thank you so much, Mei. It's really an excellent presentation. It's very
Thank
insightful,
you.
very helpful.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
yeah, thank you. One question, let me remind our audience, our friends, if you have questions, please use the Q&A.
Mm.
Mercy typed in her question. What metrics are you considering in your costing projections? How do you cost? What are the elements of your costing and your pricing? How do you price your
Mm.
books?
Okay, I'll try to answer it. In our editorial process, we have a costing sheet, you know, in our costing sheet. So in our costing sheet, can I show? Is a costing sheet like this? Oh, how? Okay. Okay, we do, it's a process in our publishing plan. That means every title that we decided to shortlist, so we will put through a costing process whereby we will look at the specifications for that book first, uh, how big, how thick, how many pages, because all this will impact the variable cost. So we will look at the specifications, then we look at the volume. You mean how many copies we going to print? So over the years, we know we have a minimum print run. Like for example, we cannot print below 500. We will lose money. So if the book, we estimate the sale to be 500, so most probably we will not go for it, right? So that is for the overall costing based on specifications, the extent, the size, the volume. And then we also look at how we get the pricing. The pricing is through the extent. Sometimes we know that if this extent is a certain extent, the prices cannot be higher than, let's say, $20. So it's based on the extent and based on books of that category, the average price. We will go out to all the bookshops and look at, if this type of book, let's say this is a discipleship book, and other publishers will normally sell it at $25 average. So we know that when we price it, we can't price above 25 if we want to stay in the market. So that is one way. Look at the similar genre, almost similar extent, then we price it. But also internally, we must make sure that um, the 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 fixed cost um, will be able to take it. And of course, the fixed cost, we also look at not only design and production, but also we look at the discount. Yeah, it will affect the costing. The higher the discount, your costing is more dangerous. It will be most probably cannot pass. So you must also manage your discount. So you look at your variable cost and your pricing, you look at your market of the same genre of book. So you can have a range. Let's say if it is a 100-page book, the range of the price is $18 to 25. So if you price above 25, most probably you have to buy everything yourself, right? So you have to look at the same genre, average extent, then you can plot the price range. But your price at the end is affected by your discount. You can give a high good price, then you give a good discount, you may be back to square one. So there are various factors. So your fixed cost, you must manage it well. Then your variable cost means your print and buy cost. So when you merge these two together, then you see your gross profit or your gross loss. You see, so that's where you can do your costing. And we have actually formed, not only have this form we already formularize it. So the editors are quite easy. They know the extent, they know the specification, they know the price, because the price is from getting from the market. Or for our case is because we have done for so long, so we know this type of book, the price range, we already know it. So the costing is structured, is very structured, and can be very accurate. Yeah.
Yes, it requires a lot of thinking and a lot of inputting data.
Yeah, inputting data, correct.
Yeah, yeah. So it's not just plucking up an amount from thin air and
Yeah, correct. You're right.
you have to go through a lot of
Yeah.
the
But once you
process.
have set it up,
Yeah,
is quite, I would say, easy to do. If
yeah,
you set it up, all the formulas. And because we have been publishing for a while, so is quite easy, I would say, for us to
yeah.
do that.
And some, Nyarko said, you may even have to consider distribution and marketing costs, and other
Yeah,
factors. Yeah.
correct. Because those days when I grew up, it was editorial. So we look at it quite at this editorial angle. But these days you have to look beyond. You have to you look until the the end user that are using your book. So it will be very helpful, to have all these multidisciplinary approach.
Yes, we will share your slides with our participants, right? It's all
Can
send them the
I
slides.
I I even have jot down some notes.
Yeah,
So because I'm scared that my pronunciation may not be be widely understood, right? So my slides come with the notes. Yeah,
thank you, thank you. We
yeah.
appreciate you, May. In
Most
fact,
welcome. Yeah, most
you
welcome.
commented that you are speaking very clearly, so thank you for that.
Thank God for that.
Yeah,
Uh,
Benedita is asking, do you publish exclusively some of your titles? Do you exclusively publish as a digital version, as an ebook without printing? Do you uh, do you plan for that?
yeah,
You will only
actually
publish
we
this digitally?
Yeah, we actually publish. Uh, we started publishing only on all physical books, but as we move along, we have the digital companion. That means when we go forward now, we have both physical and digital. But now we are learning how to publish audio, let's say, So, but for a few years now, most of our Christian books, we have the physical and the digital, because this is the request and feedback from many younger Christians,
Mm-hmm.
the millennials. They said they would prefer to read an ebook than to ask them to carry around,
Mm-hmm.
a physical book. So that is part of the feedback that I feel is very important, and that's why we do the parallel, the physical and the uh, it's not it's the ebook, yeah.
Yes, it's listening to the market as
Mm,
they do it,
listening and responding. Yeah.
responding. Yes,
Mm,
yes. Thank you. Uh,
yeah.
Benedita is also asking, what about your custom publishing? It's interesting because these are
Mm,
churches and groups that
yeah.
present their material to you and you
Yes.
publish
Yes.
them on
Yes.
their behalf and you charge them for doing so. So can you?
Well, that is actually a gem, because we don't have to worry about our inventory. We don't
Yes.
have to worry about our stock, and we get deposits from these churches. Oh, they give us deposit, and we can actually use it for improving our cash flow, right?
Mm,
So
mm.
so this is also something which is really helpful. But you must uh, be trusted. That means the churches must trust that your quality
Mm.
of your production, the quality of your editing must be superb.
Yes.
Because to write the manuscript, they can do it,
Yeah.
and but they don't know about copy editing, the grammar part, and then the production part, the layout, because they may have like photos that are 10 years old. So you must be able to give top notch quality in editing, in
Mm-hmm.
production.
Yeah.
Then they will come back to you, and our custom publishing are mainly promoted by word of mouth.
Mm.
Like one church will tell another church, hey, actually I did something very nice with Armour. You want to do a project for your church or congregation. So most of our projects are from word of mouth.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
Uh, if let's say in a year like 2021, what
Mm.
percentage would custom publishing be out of your total sales? Would would that be significant or
Now
no?
is about 20%.
20%? Still
20%. Still,
20%.
it's cash.
Yeah,
They pay cash
yeah.
because all these organizations are very rich. We don't have to chase for
For
payment.
payment.
I know. I don't have to call. Hello, please pay me $1,000 or what. They happily will pay on time.
Yes, yes,
And the cash is very useful during COVID,
yes,
whereby our retails are affected, all our retails are affected,
yes,
are closed. Mm.
yeah. Anton is asking, do you have experience publishing? Pre-order is like the custom, right? But of
Mm.
your imprints, do you ask for pre-orders or people reserving before you launch it?
Mm. Mm. Uh, so far, I think I don't remember doing it that no.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Mm.
Because some publishers, they they promote the book early on, and then
Yeah,
they even ask for pre-orders. Okay,
that will
we're
be
launching it
nice.
in August. You can give
Mm.
a deposit now
Mm.
and get 20% discount, something
Oh,
like that. So some publishers are
we
doing that.
so far we don't do that. No.
Okay, okay.
Mm.
Jeremy Leslar is asking, do you publish children's storybooks?
Yeah, we publish uh, a lot of children's books because this is related to our education ministry. That means we wanted to support and to ensure that the next generation they are good in reading and writing.
Mm-hmm.
So we publish quite a sizable list for children titles.
Yes. Okay.
Mm.
So is that something that you want to improve on? You are publishing more children's titles in the future, or
Oh, for Singapore, yes, in
mm-hmm.
a way. But our aim is actually when we do children's titles, the aim is to publish in Singapore, but the children books can cross borders. That
Cross
means
border?
this children's book no need visa. They can go Philippines, they can go Indonesia, Cambridge schools.
Yes.
They can cross from Singapore to surrounding countries.
Yes.
So this is one of the reason our children's titles are growing very fast
Mm, mm.
because there is two issue in Asia. Children are not getting more children. That means we have less children. That means they are more precious.
Yes.
So when you have less children and they are more precious, you buy more books.
Mhm.
So we found that actually is a good phenomenon because in Singapore also our children population, our babies are decreasing,
Mm,
and because we have less children, the parents are able to spend a lot more money, to nurture their children.
mhm.
So our children category is growing rather fast.
Mhm.
In fact, faster than our Christian category.
The
You
adult.
know, and because in Singapore we are also looking at children titles on character education.
Mm,
So in that is linked to our Christian genre as well. So when we approach churches, churches will be very interested in children titles that is on character education. So now from children children's titles on character education. We are working on children's titles on climate change, on conservation, on in Singapore we call it Singapore Go Green. So these are the titles that are getting a lot of good feedback and good growth. Mm.
Great. Thank
Mm.
you.
Welcome.
Benedita, follow-up is about the custom publishing. What do you actually require from the churches or organizations? They just submit their manuscript to you without
And
any layout,
photographs.
without
Mm.
cover,
Yeah.
and you will do the rest?
Yes, we do the rest. They just give us the I wouldn't call like manuscript, is the write-ups, then they will say that I want to talk about the Anglican history in Singapore, let's say. Then we say okay, then they will appoint their own writers themselves, and then they will write up the whole history, Anglican history in Singapore. Then they will provide us with the photographs, so we will edit and we will lay out, then we will print, and supply to the church. So most of the writings are all done by themselves. They wouldn't want us to write most of the time. They will appoint their own writers. Then for us is to check the flow, counter check the history, edit the grammar.
Yeah,
That's yeah, and layout. Yeah.
yeah. You put on your expertise,
Mm.
and you, of course, you charge them for this.
Of course, we charge them.
They come to you because they know you're experts, and they should be willing to pay you.
We know that they know that we need money.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Jacob Varghese from India is asking, do I need to include promotions and advertising cost in my costing? Yes. Promotions,
Yeah.
marketing, advertising costs when you promote the book, that should
But
be included.
normally our book costing doesn't include the marketing cost,
Mm,
because the marketing cost is another cost.
mm,
We capture under operating expenses
mm-hmm,
the marketing and advertising and promotion cost is not in the book cost.
mm, mm-hmm.
We separate the two.
Okay, but you include that in your overhead? Do you include
Uh,
that indirect
it,
cost?
it include in our operating expenses lah, that is including overheads. Yes.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you. Uh,
Welcome.
yeah, Inge is would really like to see a from start to finish kind of a publishing plan, like
Mm.
from commissioning, editing, printing. I think you from your slides you can get hints or tips on how to do that, right? Creating a publishing
Then
plan.
actually our publishing plan, yeah, we it's not from my slide. You will not be able to see it because
Mm-hmm,
our publishing plan is another document. It is
mm-hmm,
a specific document,
mm-hmm.
because in our publishing plan we have to track the progress of the title, and we have to track the manpower, and we have to track the stage of every book. So whether the book is in commissioning, writing, editing, or even when to send out for heat press, and when the stock will come in and stuff like that. So it's a different document,
Yeah.
and that is the whole year document. Then we break it into a monthly tracking document. So you have the whole year, you have the monthly, then that's where we will be able to monitor, monitor it.
As you said in your presentation, you have a 3-year rolling plan.
Yeah, yeah. We,
So,
we need to roll. If you don't roll, you are stuck. Yes, rolling means in two, let's say this year, 2022, we have titles last year which we have commissioned that the development process is uh, editing as of end 2021. So by the beginning of 2022, they are at the production process. So that's why in this project, we cannot say cut off in December. So our project will roll from last year to this year. It rolls because last year is commissioned and this year is printed.
yeah,
So, and we have titles that if we commission early this year, we can print within this year because the gestation period of any title is actually, I would say, 18 months, 18 months. But the range can be 6 months to 18 months.
yeah,
But if the manuscript come in is super perfect and the editing is super fast, then within 3 months or 6 months, we can print it out already.
yes,
So in your list of projects, there are some that are fast, there are some that are slow. So you have to organize them. You have to herd the cows and the cattle, okay, these projects for this financial year,
yes,
because the budget is dependent on our publishing plan. But we have to start some for next year. We cannot wait until January 2023, only start work on 2023's plan. Because if that happen, we may not be able to capture it. So because of the development process,
yeah,
so that's why it's rolling. Some last year roll to this year, some this year roll to next year.
yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
Anya Maki, you can is asking how can she interact with Inge. You can chat with her directly when you put on the chat. Just choose her name, and you
Mm.
can chat with her directly. Uh,
Mm.
she's also asking, do you use any software for tracking your project, your titles? Do you use an app
Actually,
like
now we are,
Asana, or there are several project management software out there? Are you using
yeah.
specifically something?
Actually, yeah, we use a simple one, the Google dashboard, to track
Google
the
dashboard.
Google, yeah, to
Okay.
track the main
Google.
projects.
Oh,
Otherwise,
mhm.
we depended a lot on our own own two pairs of eyes and two pairs of hands.
Okay. So Google dashboard, is that
Dashboard.
okay? And everyone can see the
Mm.
status where the project is
Yes,
at the
yes, yes.
beginning. Okay, so everyone can take a look at it and
And change
and
or
change
add.
it. Okay,
Yeah.
add. Okay, that's and it's free, right? It's Google.
It's free.
It's
That's why
free.
we have to look for free things.
I have to look for free things. Okay, thank you, Benedita. We're over time, but you can leave anytime. But we'll just finish all the questions. Benedita is asking, do you illustrate the books yourself, or do you commission artists to do the design, the
Okay.
drawings, the illustrations?
On that aspect, we rather commission because we may need different styles, different type, of artists. So we don't have an in-house illustrator.
I see.
We we outsource all the time
You
so
outsource.
that we have a variety, and sometimes we have concurrently 2 3 projects going on, so one person will be quite difficult to handle. So but when we outsource to a variety of people, so we can get 3 projects completed within the same time frame. Mm.
Yes, yes.
Mm.
And you involve more creative artists and discover their talents as well. And yeah, that's a good strategy
Mm.
for that. Thank you for your comments. Dina said, thank you for an educational and informative presentation. Louisa said, thank you for a wonderful webinar. Thank you so much, uh, May. Really, this is
Welcome,
very,
welcome.
very good. This is really helpful. We will share your slides with our
Yes,
audience
we,
and
yeah,
uh, recording of this webinar.
yeah.
May I
Okay.
ask you for your final words of encouragement to
Yes.
encourage our audience as they do their editorial planning?
Hmm. Finally, is from the day of Martin Luther, the first printing press. You know, we know what we are doing is a very special work. We we share, we communicate, and knowledge and information and ideas. Actually, we are not printing papers. If we are printers, maybe is something that will be quite a sad thing. But because what we are doing is communicating, we are sharing information, we are educating, so and encouraging and helping. As long as there are humans, there will always be need for communication and for encouragement, inspiration. So who does all these things the best way? No? These are the people, these are the editors, these are the publishers that make it possible for people to access all these things. No, sometimes if you know that a world without publishers, what will that be? How will the world become? You know, Sometimes when we feel that our business is not the way it is, maybe we are in a transition period from paper to a different mode. But at the end of the day, it's not the medium, it's not the paper or the ebook or the digital book, it's your content,
It's the content.
right? It's all about content, right? They say in the next century, data is king.
Mhm.
True, but content is queen, or maybe better, is super king. Because without content, what can transpire? What can happen? How can ideas be? How can opinion be? How can education come about? How do we teach our kids? How do we encourage each other? How do we help? You know, from the beginning is the word,
Mhm.
right? And the word became became life, right? And our God is all about the word. And where does the word come from? From the publishers, right? From the editors, right? These are the wordsmith. They are the wordsmith, especially we believers. Imagine without words. Imagine without publishers to continue sharing the word.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. Yeah.
Christian publishers, our content is coming from the Word of God.
Yeah.
So biblical
Yeah.
content, and we know that
So
that's
it's not book. We are not a book people.
amen.
We are the content people,
Yes,
you know.
amen. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, May.
Yeah.
It's really been a wonderful
Ramon,
webinar.
so nice to meet you in person. Yeah.
I should visit you in Singapore one time.
Yeah. Where are you now?
Yes, yes,
Where are you now?
yes. We are ending our webinar now.
Yep.
Thank
Yep.
you, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you for your
Okay.
participation.
Bye.
Thank you for being
Okay.
here.
Bye, Ramon.
Yeah, watch out for our next webinar next month, May 8th. How to write compelling stories for fiction or non-fiction projects with Tesha Afshar. So we will send out the invitation to all of you, and you can also forward the invitation to your friends who might be interested to come.
Okay.
And continue to pray for MEI as we continue to plan for Let World 2022 in Hungary in April. Do pray for us, pray for the speakers, pray for the workshop leaders, pray for everyone who wants to come, visas for all those who need visas. So we would appreciate your prayers. Thank you, and
Okay.
God bless you all, and may the Lord empower you and encourage you and equip you as you publish books for His honor and glory. May, thank you so much.
Bye, Ramon.
Bye bye, everyone.
Okay.